What's up, everybody? I'm at my favorite park, but I am doing it from this angle because there are a lot of people behind me, and I don't want to get people's faces in the video without their permission. So it's gonna be kind of weird. You're gonna be looking at me at this angle. Hopefully I don't have any boogers. But anyway, I just want to do a quick update on things. I'm gonna cover China and the global economy at this point. Okay, so like in past videos, I'll just get right into it. Just like in past videos, I've talked about how the Federal Reserve raised interest rates. They created more expense for people around the world who borrow dollars, and that's why you were starting to see economies collapse globally. Uh, and it was good for the U.S. because the U.S. dollar strengthened, but it's also bad for the U.S. because it makes everything priced in US dollars more expensive because the dollar value has increased. And the reason it makes it more expensive, uh, not for Americans. For Americans, when the dollar increases in value, you can buy more. But it makes it more expensive for people abroad because more people want dollars and the value of the dollar goes up. So it costs more for them to sell their own currencies to buy US dollars. Then in addition to that, if they're borrowing, if interest rates are high, it costs them more to borrow money that they don't have already. And so it makes it doubly costly for foreigners to borrow US dollars. And what happens is you get a liquidity crisis overseas. So a lot of emerging markets are their economies are suffering, except for the ones that President Trump has secretly gone. Well, it's not really a secret. He openly did that when he first became president. He went over to all these different emerging markets and began negotiating free trade agreements with them. And it was on the news and everything, and we had all this fanfare. China is one of them. However, China is also simultaneously an enemy of ours because they have signed on to the globalist agenda of destroying America and building China at America's expense. So, previously, the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates so low that it made it so cheap to be able to borrow money and to go overseas and start building a business. Now, when the interest rates are high, it makes it more expensive, and so those overseas businesses are starting to hurt. So Trump also is tacking on tariffs in addition to that. So the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates. They're just slowly starting to lower them, but interest rates are still high if you've already borrowed money now, and now you have to pay a higher interest rate. If the Fed is lowering interest rates, it's helping you a little bit, but they're lowering it so slowly that you still owe money and it's still high. And so the global economy is showing signs of slowing down. And as a result, because we're all global, like I've always said, this is the problem with globalism. If you're all holding hands and one person jumps off a cliff, they're going to start pulling the entire chain down with them of everyone holding hands. The only way that you won't fall off the cliff with them is if you let go of the person next to you. And, you've got all the left always complaining that, oh, we are so exclusive, we need to include everybody. They do it to their own suicide and detriment. They're so loving that they're willing to commit suicide and have everybody die at the same time when some other person is reckless. So that one person jumped off the cliff, and now the left is willing to hold on to them so tight, even though they're dragging them towards the cliff's edge, and they're willing to die with them. This is why socialism does not succeed, because it doesn't matter whether it's light socialism or if it's major socialism like communism. Socialism does not succeed. And this is why socialism has to be enforced using force. You have to use violence. This is what makes China right now at risk of a civil war, because you're seeing the Hong Kong people who like capitalism are not liking the way that the communist Chinese are coming in and trying to force socialism on them. And the Chinese are trying to force socialism by saying, hey, whenever you have a problem here, you have a bad guy here, we want to extradite that bad guy to mainland China to convict them. Because in socialist type governments, or communist type governments, often you are guilty until you prove your own innocence. And in capitalist type cultures, you are innocent until the government proves that you did something wrong. Now, I want you to take some time to take that in. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the criminal, okay? Or the accused is more importantly, the accused criminal, because most likely you are not a criminal. You're just being accused of a crime. And if you are immediately guilty by being accused of a crime, it is going to be very difficult if you're sitting in jail. If you know personally that you did not commit that crime, it's going to be very difficult for you to prove your innocence. Okay, so we're having these problems right now with gun issues. You've got these people who are often leftists who use the Second Amendment to purchase firearms because we all have the right to defend ourselves, but we don't have a right to use those firearms to commit murder. A murder is seeking out targets to kill. We don't seek out targets to kill. In fact, our right to self-defense is the fact that we have the firearm available, but we really have to justify using that. So if someone breaks into your house and they don't have a firearm, they don't pose an impending threat, and you just decide to shoot them because they're trespassing, you can go to jail because you are a murderer, okay? This is what's frustrating to me as a gun owner. I'm often lumped into the groups of people who abuse guns, and that's false. All the gun owners like me are upset about this. And we hate those gun owners that destroy our right to open carry. Open carry is a right to carry your firearm out in public. And here in California, that right has been destroyed because of stupid people who would rather take their gun and then flaunt that they have a firearm to like puff their chest out and brandish their firearm to show, hey, I'm armed, so don't mess with me. That's so stupid, and now you've given the government a reason to take away our open carry, so now we can't even open carry. Our right to concealed carry is very strongly limited, and so we can't even take our firearms out of our homes and carry them on our person. So basically, the entire world outside of our house is a gun-free zone until we leave California and go to a state and live there and transfer our firearms there, where we can finally carry again, if that state allows it. If that state is like New York or any other leftist state like California, a good fat chance you're ever going to be able to carry again. And they're going to just keep restricting your human right to self-defense. They're going to restrict the ways that you can defend yourself. And you're going to get in trouble if you're afraid for your life and you try to defend yourself if someone's trying to kill you. And you kill that other person to stop them from trying to kill you, you can go to jail because of these leftists who think you shouldn't have that right to defend yourself. So really think about that. So anyway, that's what China's trying to bring here. They're doing it through social credit systems. China is influencing the whole world through money. They're buying ports. They're buying all kinds of strategic assets worldwide. And even they're buying off our politicians. So anyone who's pushing red flag laws, they're buying into this idea that, we have to be like Minority Report and predict that you might commit a crime. Like that word might, okay? You might commit a crime, so you have to be prosecuted before you even go to court. This is getting real dangerous. We're becoming a leftist country. The red flag laws are now making it so citizens can now complain on each other and get your guns taken away. Even though you've done nothing wrong, there's no conviction, you haven't even gone to court. It's absolutely unconstitutional and it's a violation of your human rights. And those same leftists like to go to the border and complain about families being separated from each other when they break the law. They are breaking the law, coming here illegally. And so children are being separated from adults whom they can't even prove those adults are part of their family. Those most likely are sex traffickers, but they're trying to keep the children with those criminals so that they can continue to sell those children for sex and make money off of those kids. But they want to then turn around and be hypocrites and allow us to be separated from our right to self-defense without a trial. We aren't criminals. We haven't committed any crime, but they're going to predict that we're going to commit a crime based upon their feelings about us. That is absolutely disgusting. So anyway, we're getting back to the economy now. China's hurting big time because they're an emerging market. They've borrowed a lot of dollars. The cost of borrowing is high, so they've got to service those dollars. So they need dollars to service the dollar-denominated debt. So they have to borrow more or sell their currency for foreign exchange. And the dollar value is increasing as that demand increases to pay off that debt. And so it makes it more expensive for them to sell their currency because the dollar is appreciating in value versus their currency. So China's in a kind of a bad bind where they can't get the money to service, and they owe all this money. They're starting to be the biggest debt ower to us now. And that's all due to the central banks. Central banking system has done that to basically rob everyone. The U.S. people also borrow dollar-denominated debt, but we earn dollars, so we don't have to sell anything to get dollars unless it's stuff that we buy. We do a different thing. In foreign countries, they have to foreign exchange to get dollars. We have to sell everything that we own in order to get dollars so that we can pay the debts that we have incurred by borrowing money that we didn't earn. And then on top of that, our economy is slowing down because now with the U.S. dollar getting more expensive, people will not, from around the world, will not be doing business with us, so business contracts. So we get into a debt trap worldwide, and this is how central banks control us, and they steal from us, and they turn us into slaves, because you end up being in the rat race, trying to get that money, trying to get that cheese to service your hunger or your debt, right? And you can never service your hunger enough because that debt is constantly growing. You're paying interest on that. They're charging you interest in the amount. So you borrow $100, you're paying the interest on that $100 also, in addition to the $100. And if it's 10%, you're going to have to pay $110 next month. And then the 10% accrued on that entire thing later, it compounds against you. You'll never catch up unless you're making money on a compound interest way. And there's no way to do that, because if you try to put money in a bank, you're only going to get like 1%. So what I'm saying to you is these are dangerous times. Now, the Federal Reserve, New York Fed Bank president, who's the head of all of the Federal Reserve, John Williams, came out and said that he's going to support the economy expansion, which means they're going to be doing quantitative easing, and they will be lowering interest rates slowly. If they don't lower interest rates, they're still going to quantitatively ease. Quantitative easing means they're going to print money so that money is available, and they're going to inject it as they feel is appropriate into the economy. And so injecting it into the economy as they feel appropriate is a command economy. It's basically communism is command economy. It's command economics. Rather than letting a free market happen, they command it to happen. They decide what needs to be done, and that is absolutely inefficient, and that's why we've seen multiple communistic countries collapsing, because their money collapses, their economy collapses, everything collapses around them, because you cannot command an economy. If all economics and all politics are local to you. So if you live in California and it's 90 degrees outside, you don't want to buy jackets, you want to buy swim shorts, right? So you can go to the beach. New York is not going to want to buy swim shorts if it's wintertime, right? They're going to want to buy jackets for winter because it snows there. It gets into the minus temperatures. California doesn't get into the minus temperatures that often. So, we very rarely get to zero even. The lowest we probably get is in the teens, okay? So we're not going to need, the demand for jackets is not going to be as high as for New York. That's why all economics and politics are local to you. They're right there where you are. And if the government or a higher, I shouldn't even say government, because the Federal Reserve is not even government. It's forced itself into the way of our government through conning globalist politicians into signing it into law that these private entities can come and command our economy and turn us into a communist nation. And then they go tell the voters that, capitalism is the cause of this. No, this is not free market capitalism. Free market capitalism is, I need something, I demand it. Someone sees that demand, they want to make money, so they make it and they sell it to me and I buy it. That's free market. I demand it, they supply it. It's not that the government comes in and then commands that it's made, and I may or may not want to buy it. So like let's say they command fur coats to be sold in Southern California. I mean, I don't know if you can tell by this weather out here. It's like in the 100 degrees. I'm not going to buy a fur coat. I don't need to buy a fur coat. But because a company is now forced to produce it by the government, that counts as economic productivity and expansion because they produced it. And the government will probably subsidize that company by buying that thing because they asked them to make it. So they will print dollars and they will use those printed dollars to buy that thing. So the government will now own all of this stuff, and it makes it look like there's commerce going on. That's what globalism has been doing all along. They print all this money and they fake things out. Globalism is basically crony capitalism, or basically the central bank economy, where they create fake economies. They make everything look good on paper so everybody's happy, and then everyone dumps their money into the stock market, and then they crash the economy and take everybody's money. It's unbelievable. So anyway, China is now being separated from the U.S. dollar. They're going to have to float the Chinese currency. Currently, they've been pegging to us, and if they peg the yuan to the U.S. dollar, they need stimulus. The U.S. dollar is increasing in value, so the yuan will also increase in value. You cannot stimulate your economy when your currency is increasing in value because, like I said, it becomes very expensive for other countries to try to do business in your country because now the yuan, RMB, is increasing in value. And let's say Vietnam wants to buy something from China. Now Vietnam's going to cost them a lot more of the Vietnam dong to exchange for Chinese yuan, RMB. And so they're going to look to another country to try to get that good or service that they need to buy because it's too expensive in China. They will arbitrage, in other words. They'll find another place that's cheaper. It's competition to China for them to get that good or service that they need, that they usually got from China and now is going up in price. So China's hurting big time. And by the raised interest rates, China's going to have to let the yuan, RMB float more in order to stimulate the economy. Or they're going to have to print money like crazy in order to stimulate the economy, which is basically the same thing, because if you're pegging to the US dollar, you're making sure there's an equal exchange rate supply of yuan to the US dollar. And in order to do that, you have to either create enough to make it the supply of yuan equal in exchange to the supply of US dollar, or you have to take yuan out of the marketplace to make, because you have too much in order to make it equal to US dollar quantity also. So that peg is going to have to be broken in order for them to stimulate by quantitative easing. So and I guess the way they can do that also is by through the U.S. Federal Reserve. If you urge them to stimulate by printing U.S. dollars, then China can also stimulate by printing RMB, because it becomes more dollars than RMB. They have to print RMB to keep that peg. So the other thing Trump is doing is, if he can't shake them through the exchange rate of the currencies, he's doing the Trump tariffs. The tariffs also make it expensive for businesses who are located in China to do business, because now goods and services that come from China, especially if they were formerly American businesses that moved to China, they're going to be punished by taxes to import it into the U.S. or export it to the U.S. and then have the U.S. import it. That cost will be paid by U.S. consumers only if U.S. consumers buy from China. If you buy from Vietnam, it's probably cheaper. If you buy it from Indonesia, it's probably cheaper. If you buy it from Thailand, it's probably cheaper. From the Philippines, probably cheaper. Mexico, probably cheaper. So as Trump starts putting tariffs on specific countries, he's signaling to Americans, these countries are not so good for us. They're not agreeing with us. They're taking advantage of us. So we're going to take advantage of them. We're not going to take advantage of them. We're going to punish them, actually, for doing that. to the point where we will really hurt their economies. And you're seeing it by Hong Kong starting to stand up against China. Taiwan is getting more aggressive against China. You're seeing all of these surrounding areas that are considered part of the People's Republic of China uh, standing up to China. So China's starting to see some infighting. And if the Chinese economy starts to collapse as they print more money and prices go up, people over there are already poor and they find it hard to pay for things. And so prices rising are going to make it more difficult for them to live, and you're going to see people go out into the streets and riot. China has billions of people. I haven't looked at the latest figures, but last time I looked was around 3 billion people in China. 3 billion people can cause a lot of problems for you if you try to keep them under control and they're pissed off. And the more you try to keep them under control, they outnumber the law enforcement or the military. You got a big problem on your hands. And if you're undergoing a civil war and another country decides to attack you at that same time, you are super vulnerable for problems. So China's got a lot of worries right now, and Trump is putting on the leverage because he's hurting them. He's putting pins in them. He's like, look, I want to negotiate with you, but you guys keep pulling away from the table because they think that they can hold out until Trump is not reelected anymore. He's not president anymore. Trump is really putting the pressure on them so that they have to come to the table because they're hurting so bad. They're going to have to admit and lick their wounds and put salt to help heal, and kind of come and lick their wounds and be like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. We're gonna negotiate. So he's helping to beat them down. And so I believe that China will come to the table. Now, because the New York Fed president said that he will support the economy, I believe that the scare in the United States for global insecurity and unsureness about the economy has gone out the window a bit. So you're going to see a pullback in gold and silver. There's a great opportunity. Take some money off the table. I did today. Take some money off the table. I've already got over 100% on my money that I invested, and I'm going to wait for a pullback. I also hold quite a bit of my holdings from way back. I don't want to take too much off the table because if I miss out on a sudden global instability news piece and it causes gold and silver to skyrocket, I still want to make money there. I'm not going to make as much as I had invested now, but I made at least 100% of my money. So I'm not going to be greedy. I'm going to wait and let those things pull back, give me an opportunity to re-enter at a better price and get some sales on those positions so I can lock in those gains, and I can now position myself in a better way to make more money on the next rally. And it's a lot more secure because we had a big rally in gold and silver, and nothing goes up forever. If you keep hearing that from all the gold bugs, I'm a gold bug, but I'm not a psychotic gold bug where I just say everything goes up to the sky forever. No, that's not true. What goes up must come down. It's the law of gravity, and that is true in markets as well. Not because there's necessarily gravity in markets, but because there are sellers, and there is always someone who wants to lock in a profit like I did today. So don't ever think you've completely missed out on a market unless that market is just, going boop, 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 boop. You may have missed out already on that one. Like Bitcoin, when it went from, a couple $100 to 20,000, you missed out on that one, okay? But everyone thought it was going to go to 100,000, and it didn't. It hit 20,000, and what did it do? It crashed all the way back down to 3,000. It took a year or so to do so, but it did it. So you didn't miss out, but it never went back to a couple $100 yet. Can it do that? Possible. Can you get back in? It may only do that. If it does do that, it may only do that for a couple seconds because there's so many people like me who are just waiting for more entry points for Bitcoin to drop. We're just waiting with cash to buy it, that most likely it will never get back down to the single hundreds or just regular hundreds. It's going to stay in the thousands, and it may not even get down to 3,000. Bitcoin is pretty stable, about 10,000 right now. It got down to 8 for a little while. That was probably your buy-in. Can it get down to maybe 5,000, 6,000 again? I think that's possible because it got down to 3. 5 and 6 is possible. 3, mostly unlikely. Unless we have a super economic collapse, we'll probably have people sell their Bitcoin in order to service whatever debts they can in the meantime. And then the fear of what this collapse is going to bring will cause people to jump right back in with whatever they have. And it may not be the same people who sold the Bitcoin to service their debts. It may be people like me who are waiting and waiting and waiting to buy it cheaper. And when they see that cheaper price, they're going to be like, now's the time. Boom, they jump in. So the same thing, gold and silver, Bitcoin, Litecoin, all those, I foresee, there may be a time of lower prices. So even though things are looking good now, I don't see that the global economy has collapsed yet and has caused the distress. So initially what I think is now everything seems like it's good. So we're going to get out of the Bitcoin scare tactic, the gold scare tactic, and you're going to start seeing things grow again in terms of the prices of oil, natural gas. The dollar will probably lose a little bit of value because the dollar is also slightly viewed as a flight to safety. So again, I would also use this opportunity to build your cash position as they, and the tough part about that is if they're quantitatively easing, they're going to be printing dollars. So you may lose a little value in the dollar, but I don't know. I'm going to keep, building the dollar holdings until we get to that point where, and the dollar will be losing value as I'm building. I'm not going to do it at the top. I'm going to let the dollar lose some value when I start, and then I'll start to build my dollar holdings, because your asset prices are going to rise as the dollar loses value, right? Dollar loses value, people buy stuff, and it costs more dollars for them to buy it. So I'm going to use that opportunity to start going to cash, to start going into the dollar. So you sell your assets high and you switch to the dollar as it's dropping in value. So you can buy the dollar at a sale. Is it possible they're going to destroy the U.S. dollar? I don't think that's the best interest of the U.S. Federal Reserve Central Bank. They want people on the dollar. So at some point, they're going to find a way to work out a contraction in credit. And you're going to need dollars again. And you're going to get that dollar rallying again. And you'll get gold rallying simultaneously. And then eventually, I think they might be forced to print currency to kingdom come, and then that's it. That's the end of it. No more dollar, or a significant devaluation in the dollar. So you don't want to be selling out into dollars right now and just holding them, because it's possible they could go to zero right now. I don't mean completely zero, but they head down towards zero, and you could get significant haircuts in your cash position. So now's the time to start deploying your dollars. If you have increased in gold and silver, I would transfer out of gold and silver into another asset. Now, keep in mind, this is not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. Nothing I say should be construed as financial advice. I'm just telling you what I am doing so that you know. All right, that's good enough. You guys see what's going on. I think I took a little longer than I wanted to on this. I've got stuff to do today, so I'm going to keep it cut short to that. If you are a first-time visitor, hit that like if you like the content, that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, the big red one, just below this video, or to the side, however your setup is. And hit the little bell notification, and make sure you get all notifications so that you know the next time I upload a video. I am appreciative of all my subscribers and all the people who have donated to me. Please continue to donate below if you like my my commentaries. That way you can support this channel, because YouTube does not allow me to monetize this channel, and I think that I don't get much search results if people are searching for me at this point, and I'm fine with that. If I can monetize it in any way, please support the links below. I also have affiliate links. I'm going to try to increase those number of affiliates so that you have a variety of things that you can shop for, items that I support and I buy myself. And other than that, most important is spread the word if you feel that people can benefit from the information that I share. Sometimes it's hard to understand what I'm saying, but the more you hear it, repetition is learning, the more you'll start to learn things. I didn't know stuff when I first started investing, and I lost a lot of money at first. And by losing a lot of money, that's what I consider to be tuition. It teaches you a lot. And then I became a broker. When I became a broker, I learned a lot by taking my licensing. And it solidified what I learned as an investor, and I continued investing, and I'm no longer a broker because I didn't like the reporting requirements that happened as a result of 2008 when they were trying to fix everything with Frank Dodd, the new Frank Dodd regulations. So I am now an independent investor, and I just do commentaries, so nothing is advice from me. I'm not qualified anymore or licensed anymore. I'm no longer a broker. So go seek your own financial advice, seek your own education. If you decide that you want to follow my investments, that's on you. You have no claim against me. It's your decision. You are responsible for your own decisions in this world. In actuality, that's always the case. But people like to sue. They're sue happy, especially here in California. And it creates problems for us. They don't realize it, but it causes prices to rise also by doing that. So anyway, with that, I love you guys. God bless. Take care. And may the gods of fortune and my Christian God, whoever you worship, may they support you. I only believe in one God, and I believe that's the only God that exists. So if you believe in other gods, I'm not on that page. Sorry. I am convinced, because my God has benefited me so much. He's the only God. And may Jesus Christ reign supreme. May he be merciful to us and give us protection against the snares and arrows of the devil. And may he reveal himself to you, that you may understand who is the true, loving, beneficent, and generous God that we have, who has given us life, and in whose image we are created. I love you. God bless you. Take care.